I do hereby solemnly swear that I will not raise my voice more than a half dozen times during this episode, but I gotta tell you, this one pushes all the wrong buttons with me. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday, and if you happen to be interested in football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins that will not be anywhere near as animated as this. Tony Clark is the head of Major League Baseball's Players Association, aka the union. Tony Clark takes his marching orders shamefully from Scott Boras and other powerful agents, but mostly Boras. It's been this way for a long time. All of this group that I'm describing, Clark, Boras, other agents, some prominent players like Max Scherzer and so forth who are really influential in the rank and file, all have a really cozy relationship with the national baseball media. Now, if I'm starting to sound to you like Donald Sutherland and giving the big conspiratorial speech to Kevin Costner and JFK, so be it. I've been around this for a long time, and I'm not at all afraid to call it out. So when you start seeing, hearing, and reading people saying, ooh, geez, Diamondbacks versus Rangers in the World Series, that doesn't sound so good. And then you start seeing a couple of national baseball writers of note writing this and putting headlines on it. Is this really what's best for baseball? Diamondbacks? Who are the Diamondbacks? They're not the Yankees. Who are the Rangers? They're not the Dodgers. We want teams that everybody knows and respects. Well, that's not what they're getting at. And then the subject turns to the expanded playoffs, because that they can discuss. Well, there's more teams than ever in the playoffs. No one mentions how that adds excitement in more markets, how that adds hope to more fans, including some that don't get to see the playoffs but once every 30 years. No, they just say that what a shame it is that this first place team or that first place team didn't get in. It's really wrong. They should have had a best of 7 or a best of 9 or a best of 18 until that team got in. That's the way that conversation goes. They don't care about that either, though. What they care about, you're not going to believe this, but Clark actually spoke this in an interview session leading into the World Series late last week, and I couldn't wait to do this show. He said that he has concerns about the expanded playoffs, that he's worried that first place teams aren't getting enough of a chance. Now, if he stops there, he's probably okay. I mean, then that almost sounds like a purist baseball argument. It almost sounds like something that somebody would say if they actually cared about the game and the growth of the game and the health of the game or whatever. He doesn't. He doesn't, because Boras doesn't. And because the players who are at the upper crust of the union, let's just call them the Scherzers, they don't care either. They care about one thing. And Clark blurted it out. He said that what he worries about is that teams who are 5th or 6th or 8th or whatever in payroll or even lower getting to the World Series will set an example by which other teams don't have to pay as much into their payroll, and they can still enjoy the fruits of winning baseball and championship baseball. He said this. Boras thought it, but he said it. How do I know that? Because several months ago, Boras said something virtually identical in a group session with a whole bunch of baseball reporters. Now, when Boris says it, you just go, oh, yeah, of course, that's all he cares about. He's a greedy agent. But when the head of the Players Association, the union chief, goes public in complaining that one or two teams make it to the World Series with a substandard in their eyes payroll, you know what you're up against in Pittsburgh. You know that the literal powers that be, and remember, half of them are on the union side, don't want teams like Pittsburgh being anywhere near the playoffs, much less the World Series. This is, I can't even believe this, okay? I can't believe that in the year 2023, with every other North American league structured in a way that's at least fair at the foundation, that's at least fair when it comes to finances and player acquisition and other means of building a team, that baseball can feel comfortable blurting garbage like this out loud. You know, Clark every spring makes a tour of all of the various facilities through February and March. And one of those, of course, I'm sure it's reluctant on his part, happens to be the Pirates facility in Bradenton. If you were one of the Pirates, and by that I don't mean like somebody new or whatever, but somebody who's been there for a while, like a Brian Reynolds or whoever, or even Andrew McCutchen, you know, with a couple of tours of duty now, what would you say to a guy like this? What would you say to him? What did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? Why would it be less significant for us, this group, just of the players, the people he's supposed to be representing, not the agents, the players. This group of 26 of us in here who are setting out to get to the World Series. Why would you say that? Were you going to trash us when we get there too? Is that what you're going to do? When we come back, J1Q.
This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, that's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park.
Your front door, your car, your bike, your computer, your gun. Safety is a habit. Every day you lock and secure your home and everything you want to keep safe. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
You know, I have a J1Q. I'm going to save it till tomorrow, okay? There's a reason that subject hits me as hard as it does. To me, it goes to the absolute core of fandom and faith, all of which has to be, by its very nature, rooted in a real belief that your team can win a championship, no matter who you are, no matter what the sport is, no matter the big versus small, even in salary cap leagues, there are teams that have never won the championship, never come close because they're poorly run, you know, all of which, again, is fine because the foundation is fair. Fine by me anyway. I'm sure it's not fine by their fans. But if you're buying even a single game ticket to PNC Park, you're hoping that the Pirates win that game, okay? And that's all you're reasonably expecting. You're not getting weird about it. But there's a part of you, there has to be, no matter how infinitesimal, that says, yeah, maybe. I mean, look, in 2015, they won 98 games. If it wasn't for the stupid wild card one and done format, that might have been the year. It was right there. It was laid out. You never know what could have happened. They were in the tournament. And that's one of the reasons that I've advocated for a long time. First of all, that the wild card needed to be just completely scrapped as it was. That was terribly unfair. That's been addressed. It's now a best of 3. That strikes me as a little bit more fair. Anything's better than a one and done. From there, I love the idea of expanded playoffs because baseball already makes things so pathetically unfair that at least this would allow more teams in. Once you're in, you've got a chance. We've seen that I don't know how many times over the years, but now with the Diamondbacks, we're seeing an 84-win team with a negative run differential win the National League pennant and already split the first 2 games of the World Series. It's like a cadre, this thing between Tony Clark and Scott Boras and the other agents and everything else I described in the opening segment. When I say things like these guys have to go, these guys have to be broken up, I'm not saying this as some sort of, wacko union buster or whatever. To me, if you're making, an average salary of $800,000 a year and you're even using the word union, you're kind of going against, the principles of what unions were made for. And we're kind of familiar with that in Pittsburgh, right? I just know that there couldn't be anything better for Major League Baseball than for all these clowns to just go away. For all of them to just go away. And the only way to do that is for the owners to stick together and fight for a salary cap. And maybe now, thanks to the Mets and to a lesser extent to the Dodgers, and the frustration that exists in particular with Steve Cohen and the crazy spending that he's done, you're going to finally have the push where even the wealthier owners, the Hal Steinbrenners and so forth, will say, whoa, ho, hey, enough. Okay. Let's figure this out. What are we doing here? Why did all these other leagues do it this way and we're the only idiots doing it that way? And I'm sorry, if that takes a year or more of shutting down this sport, it'd be completely worth it. I will have an actual J1Q to read to everybody tomorrow. It's coming from Kevin, and it's a good one. Thanks for listening.